And hello, everybody. You're very welcome to a new brand story conversation here on ITSP Magazine. And it's a place where we get to talk about new and cool innovations and how those innovations can help teams and programs and most importantly companies succeed at their security management and security operations to help the business grow and protect the revenue that it actually generates. And I'm thrilled to have Cory Wallace on from Crogl. Cory, how are you?
I'm good, Sean. Thank you for inviting me to the show. Very exciting. And our CEO was just here with you, so I'm glad to be here to follow up.
I know we've had a couple chats with Monzi, and uh, brilliant guy, and he knows what's happening. He's seen some
He
things.
does. He does. He is, a very unique and rare individual. This is brilliant. And I met Monzi, 15 years ago, and we became fast friends. And just excited to be working with him again
Yeah,
for the second time now.
exactly. Exactly. And we'll probably touch on some of the things that you guys experienced a few years back when
Yeah.
you
There's a
worked
lot of
together.
history there. A lot of
Exactly.
history.
And so today's conversation is really rooted in an announcement that you just made, and I'm sure it was a quick thing to put together, right? It's easy to get a patent.
Very super easy, very inexpensive. Yeah, no red tape whatsoever.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, but I think what's cool is that yeah, the way Monzi thinks and the way the team has put the solution together at Crogl is unique,
Yeah.
and I'd say kind of blows up the model of what's been built over the last 10, 15 plus years,
Yes.
and that's kind of where the patent is grounded. So maybe very quickly, a few words about your role at Crogl, maybe the elevator pitch for what Crogl is, and then we'll get into the specifics of the patent and the technologies and what it really means to folks.
Sure. Yeah. I'm the director of product marketing here at Crogl, and joined. I was at Splunk for 10 years, and then Cribble recently before coming to Crogl. So a lot of history there. That were Monty and I met at Splunk about 15 years ago. Uh, at Crogl, we wanted to do something unique and disruptive. We kind of latched onto that disruptive thing back in the day at Splunk. And so we're helping SOC analysts with this large amount of alerts that are coming in today that are very hard for them to triage and make informed decisions on how to manage these alerts. So we're using our experience with data management, data access, along with our security backgrounds and AI to help SOC analysts make informed decisions about these alerts and incidents that are coming into their systems.
Yeah, and I was involved a few decades ago, a couple decades, well, I'm doing this for a while, but a couple decades ago, early on, where you had all these systems generating all this data, and you needed to know what it was and what it meant and how it connected together. And the industry basically came up with a model of, well, first we have to collect it, right? So we
Mhm.
have to bring it to us. Then we have to normalize it so we know what we're looking at it, and then we can begin to act on it. And that's just how it was. But kind of give me a little more background on that. Why that model had to work that way, and maybe why it's falling over at this point.
20 years ago, Splunk, when we started with that product, nobody was consolidating log data. So there was no way to get this kind of single pane of glass view where you could correlate events between different systems, right? If you had to back then, telnet or SSH to a firewall, grep through the logs and rinse repeat, right? It was not very efficient. So at that time, having a model that ingested all of the data, indexed it into a very high performance database, and putting a search engine on top of that was brilliant. And we changed the industry when we did so. And that model was great at the time. At that point, nothing existed. Fast forward to today, and evolution has happened here, and data's all over the place. Data lakes have become a very important piece of infrastructure today. Cost control, um, and a lot of things that are originating in the cloud just naturally end up in an S3 bucket or lake. So that model needs to change now. We need to think differently about how we access data across all of these disparate systems.
Yeah, so there's the access part of it, which you're not going to each piece or each system or each API or service or whatever, each
Right,
connector.
right.
Um, and it's basically it's all collected in a data lake or some storage unit, and you go to that instead. Um, but more specifically, it's the normalization as well that we want to touch
Yes.
on as well. So maybe highlight what that looked like and why that doesn't work anymore either.
Sure. Yeah. One of the things that happened as we started indexing is, we had to kind of format things into some standard format or schema because log files look differently, very differently. And so we were applying some kind of schema at that point in time. And again, now as we've evolved, there's so many data sets out there that, again, are in different systems. We have some systems that are in something like a Splunk or an Elastic. And then we have data that's in S3 buckets and in a lake like Databricks or something like that. And trying to lock that into one specific format, like OCSF or something like that, is just not realistic, right? It's a very heavy lift to try to take all of that data and normalize it, and it's grossly inefficient for the people that are trying to do research on that data to try to do this and manage that problem. And then if that data is not normalized in the right way, maybe they're missing something. And the scariest thing for security analysts is to miss something, right, in the midst of an investigation. So what we've done through our decades of experience with data and log data is we've figured out a way via this patent that we've released to search data without it being normalized in any standard schema or format. So if there's a field that's called IP address in Splunk, and maybe Cribble's calling it IP underscore address, and maybe in a different system, some administrator thought that'd be cute and funny and just call it, the source or something like that. We're now taking that IP address and giving it a common name that is recognizable to the security analyst when it's presented into their chain of evidence. So I think it's a big step for us. I think it's going to be very disruptive, and we're going to change the way that now security analysts are looking at and accessing data.
Yeah, and I want to get to that, but before we actually dig into the use by the analysts, who, in my opinion, kind of get forgotten when
Yeah.
vendors are selling their wares. They usually go straight to the CISO and talk about programs, and hopefully then make the CISO successful talking to the executive leadership team. And oh, by the way, there's a SOC analyst that's having to deal with hundreds of alerts. Let me just close out 100 today because they look like the 100 yesterday. And in there, maybe the one that really matters, and we don't know.
Yes.
So before we get to that kind of scenario, talk to me about, you mentioned the schemas and just that. I remember back in the day, just setting up connectors between all these systems and mapping the schemas, and vendor would change part of their logging format or they would add more stuff, and we don't have that in the new search and analysis capabilities because it's new from that vendor and it's not something we figured out. So just keeping it maintained, but also just deploying it. So talk
Yeah.
to me about the value of what you're doing now in terms of uh, deployment ease, maintenance ease, connecting and managing all these data systems.
Yeah, first and foremost, yeah, there's a lot of things like you take syslog data. We'll use that. Everybody has syslog data. It's still the OG of data sources out there. Uh, you know, syslog is easily sent to a destination, no problem, right? We've had that capability for quite a while to push syslog data to a source. But if you're having to pass it through something to then normalize that data, you're adding another additional step, another level of complexity there that you may that you may or may not want to have that level of complexity. It's another thing that can break, another thing can make mistakes. And the thing that scares me the most about data schema is what we call schema drift. So,
Right.
firewall vendor releases a software update, the syslog format now changes. And now this key value pairs, that mapping that was being done by the schema is now wrong. So you're missing a field or fields. And now you cannot make that informed decision about, an incident. And that's pretty scary. I think, prior in my prior life before coming to Crogl, we talked a lot about schema drift, and people are out there making products to address schema drift. We're trying to take it a step further and just say, let's just take schema out of the equation
Yeah,
completely.
I love it. I love it. So the impact to the analysts now, their job is to get assigned alerts, receive alerts, whatever. Um, Try to figure out, is this something I need to roll up? Is it something I need to investigate more? Do I put it on the back burner because it may be related to something down the line and I don't know what to do with it right now? Describe to me how that kind of the process and their day-to-day activities change with the removal of the schema, the no need to normalize data before they get that alert, and actual more context and insight perhaps with the information they get now too, helping them.
Sure. Right now, with the schema applying to things, when they go around looking, one, they don't necessarily, the sim is telling them that something happened, but then the investigation falls on them for the most part, right? The sim is 911 in most cases, right? And then they have to go try to solve the crime. They become the detective and CSI and all those things, and they're hopping around to data hunting at that point. And that was why the original consolidation model was nice. But then it fast forward to now, where schema drift and schema changes are a problem. We also have the problem of multiple query languages that these analysts are trying to figure out. So now, because data is in different places and different formats, they don't just have to know SPL, Splunk's language. Now they need to know KQL, SQL, other query languages. And you take an overworked analyst who already has too much on their plate and now say, oh, by the way, I need you to learn all these different query languages. And while you're threat hunting in the heat of battle, remember how to convert these query languages. So we're doing that for them. And by one, having access to all this data without the need for schema, we can map out what needs to be found. We can create those queries for them, and we're actually appending those into our workflow, putting them in the ticket history for the analysts, and helping them identify. You don't, that common name that I mentioned earlier. Now you don't have to figure out what IP address is called in 3 different systems. We've done that for you, and we're all talking about time and efficiency here when it comes to threat hunting, and so now we've saved them minutes to hours by doing that for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and Monzi was showing that. I'm trying to remember the numbers. I think it was like 8 phases of investigation and 40 activities, and in there is a handful of queries, and you may know one, but not the other 5 or 4 or whatever it is,
Right, right, right.
and and you're trying to connect with the rest of the team. Hey, do you know how to write this query? And you're waiting for that person to come back, and you're stalled on the response to that alert, and you're that's only if you decide to go in. I think the reality
Right,
is
right.
you're closing it because you think it looks like one yesterday. I kind of joke about that, and it doesn't. It looks benign, but you don't know until you actually get into the query and say, well, what is in here, and is there anything unique? And you do that analysis as well, which I think is pretty cool.
It's really great. I think one thing that we learned early on at Splunk is that it's not the thing you're looking for; it's the thing you're not looking for that you should be scared of. And I think there is that risk of closing the alerts because today with AI and threat hunting evolving, or threats evolving, you know uh, you don't necessarily, a hacker doesn't need to be a really astute programmer to come up with something fairly good uh, to initiate attack where user behavior analytics don't really apply. They can emulate an identity for a while and make the behavior pattern look normal, and it looks like just another alert you should just disregard, and it's something.
Yeah,
And the way to find out what that something is through data investigation and looking in places
yeah,
for that.
yeah. And if you're using, I think we use the word rigid. If you're using rigid schemas and static rules, yes, maybe the rules can dynamically change perhaps with some ML in there, but it,
Right.
you're you're not really going to get the best results with a fully automated schema based with drift involved.
No,
And yeah,
no. As Morpheus told Neo in the Matrix, rules can be bent
right.
and broken, and a good hacker knows how to bend those rules, and they do so. And so you have to think outside of creating rules.
So I'm going to encourage everybody to watch that demo from Monzi. But as we wrap here, maybe you touched on time savings, and I think we've kind of rounded around on some of the capabilities of investigation and hunting, and making that easier and faster. What other outcomes do you expect teams to have, and then security operations centers to have because of this?
I think first and foremost, we want to increase their efficiency, right? Again, I want the overworked SOC analyst to not open an incident that's just a blank, here's the alert and I have nothing else, no other context to go with this. With us, we start working the 14 steps of the kill chain. And by the time the analyst gets to that incident, we've already provided them a history of what we have found about this incident. So the mean time to resolution is getting better. They're gaining efficiency by having, needing less FTEs. Right now, the problem with the alert volume being so absurd is that the only way to handle that today is to try to throw FTEs at it, or to just, like you've talked about, close incidents you think don't matter. Both of those things are, one is risky and the other thing is just hard to do right now in a market where SOC analysts are very valuable resources. And then it takes time to train them. So I think one of the main things that we provide today is efficiency for the SOC analyst that's in the hot seat. Our goal is to make that analyst their life easier, give them a lot of information to help them make an informed decision quickly, but responsibly. And we're documenting all that for them.
Yeah, and one thing I'll point out is, because it's easy. I think it's one thing for an organization or a vendor to say, we're going to do all this for the SOC analyst, and it's all under the covers and they don't have to worry about anything. It's automated. But what I saw in the demo is you're actually showing the query, you're showing the
Yes.
steps, you're showing the information. The analyst gets smarter.
Yes.
They're not getting dumber and just clicking buttons. They're getting
And
smarter, and they want to hunt. They want to find that hard thing that's sitting there, that's going to be the thing that busts the company. And you're giving them the tools and information and the environment with which to do that. And this is really, really cool. So thrilled to have this conversation, I mean, you guys are blowing up the model, and now you've patented that. So congratulations
we have.
on that.
Thank you. We want to be disruptive, and again, we do care about the SOC analyst, and that's not just a marketing line or just something we're throwing out there to sound cool. Monzi went and worked as a SOC analyst for a year, tier one SOC analyst, before we started the company, and we truly care about making the SOC analyst better and helping them be more efficient. So
Yeah, that's a
we're going to
crazy
stick to that
story.
mission. Yeah, yeah,
Crazy story.
yeah.
You told me that yesterday, and I was like, "That's pretty cool."
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
the
Yeah, yeah.
executive's like, "You want to do what?" I want to give you a team. And he says, "No, I want to be one of the team."
Yeah, yeah. Put me in as
Put
a
me in,
tier one.
coach.
Put me in, coach. Yeah, yeah. It was great that he did that. Again, just a testament to Monzi's character and how much he cares
Yeah,
about this problem and the people that are on the front lines.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Cory, for this. Again, congratulations, everybody
Thank you.
listening and watching. Thanks for joining us here for this brand story on ITSP Magazine. Connect with Cory online, find Monzi online. I'll include his LinkedIn as well, crogl.com, Crogl.com, for all that they offer. And of course, you can find this and other conversations we've had with the team on itspmagazine.com as well. Thanks again, Cory.
Thank you, Sean.
Best of luck. Looking forward to more conversations. Keep well, everybody.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.